And welcome to the day after. I'm Joe Spina. This is Frankly Speaking, along with Paul Crowley. A lot happened.
Yeah, pretty exciting election. Even though it was the turnout was really pretty low. It was what, 10% or something?
Yeah, 11-odd%, but that's pretty symptomatic.
Right. And you know, that's the 10% of the population that under no circumstances will they not vote. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
They were all, every one of those folks voted.
Definitely.
Few beyond that, though.
I saw Agnes Rickel with the Al out on the Four Corners with a bunch of signs for Tommy McGee, and you know she's been around a long time, and she pulls a lot of weight, so that was to his advantage.
Right.
You know.
It's funny. Last week you were talking about how the domino effect, how when one person gets moved up to a certain position, then the backfill of the position. I was at the new Rotary over in Westland, over by the Market Basket, and I saw Brendan Crichton holding a Tom McGee sign. I rolled down the window and I yelled out. I said,
teased him a little bit.
Yeah, I said, is that a Crichton for Senator sign?
It will be shortly.
It will be shortly.
Frankly, Joe, the results are in. The people have spoken, and more accurately, they roared. And they really roared in Ward 2. It's been said that signs don't vote. Well, Ward 2 certainly proved that. The entire ward was blanketed in green and white signs, big ones, small ones, standard ones, everywhere throughout the ward, but to no avail. The colors didn't make the cut, a distant third to a smattering of signs. Richard Starbard and Gina O'Toole will face off in November. Congratulations to both. The mayor has her hands full. Senator McGee fashioned an impressive showing in the primary. A cautionary note, however, back when Mayor Marino ran against Chipper Clancy. You remember that, Paul?
I did.
And I believe Chipper Clancy defeated him by about 3,000 votes in the primary.
Right, and lost handily.
Yeah, and he lost the final.
Yeah.
So there's always that possibility. To each and every candidate, give it your best. Good things are sure to follow. Paul, I have never in my life seen a situation where there were more signs for an individual than he got in votes.
Talking about the green and white signs in Ward 2?
Yeah. Don't you think that there were more green and white signs in Ward 2 than the total amount of votes that individual received in the election, in the primary?
I bumped into Rick Starbard a few weeks back, and I said, Rick, where are all your signs? And he says, oh, I got 150 of them out there, but they just happen to be where the people that are supporting me are, not necessarily on the main street. And he at that point, he said to me, and I thought there was a little bluster in there, you know, thinking that, you know, he was just saying that that's kind of the standard line you would have. But he was basically saying that the signs on Eastern Ave and up, you know, those main streets were, you know, people that agreed to put the sign out, but not necessarily either agreed to vote for him or went out on primary day. The thing
Paul,
is about.
I mean, it was a massive way. Your famous word, I never pronounce it correctly. You know, when you have a flood there, you know that nice
tsunami.
That's what the way you say it. I say it a little differently, but that's fundamentally what it was. I mean, I have never seen. Only one other time that I noticed that phenomenon when Falzone ran as rep, and everywhere I looked, there was Falzone signs. Anyway, I go to Pachi's, you know, I had to get my Italian wedding soup. And what do I see? Falzone.
That's when he lost to Wong?
And he lost to Wong.
Right.
That was a wake-up call. This was equally a wake-up call. You remember, well, I shouldn't say that, because back in, and we have those, and we're going to come up with that, back in 2015, no, actually it was 2013, wasn't it, when Phelan ran against the mayor? And he had a slew of signs all over the place.
Well, you know, somebody once told me a few years back, it was Steve Walsh, and he was talking to me about, this is like while I'm running for the election the first time, he says, winning an election is a cumulative thing. The first day you have your friends and your family, there's your first 100, 200 votes or whatever. Then you go to an event, you make a good impression on people, you add to it. You know, you put a sign on somebody's lawn, you might get the 2 votes in the home, and you get some people on the street. 10 more, you know, so it's a cumulative effect, right? But part of that accumulation of support comes from not only the positions that you take, but how well you're received in a conversation. You know, I mean, do you get along with somebody? Are you, you know, friendly? Can you talk? Can you listen? Things that people pick up on, you know, like the nonverbal communication that comes with it.
Great point.
You know, so these types of things are in the cumulative sense, how you raise your vote totals, right, along the way.
Do you think that Tommy McGee benefited from his father being that cumulative effect you're talking about? Tom McGee Sr. built up a lot of goodwill through the years, and is that transferable? And I suggest it probably is.
I'd say it was pretty transferable 23 years ago when he first got in there. But I would say now he's got it.
He's on his own.
He's all on his, it's all on his own.
Oh, absolutely.
He's been doing it for 23 years, and for however you feel about his politics, he's a likable guy. He works on issues for you. He tries to do what he can, and you know.
Let me give you two little vignettes, and then we got to do Frankly Paul, okay? The other night, last weekend, I think it was either Thursday or Friday of last week, I had a hankering for Tony's Pub clams, which, by the way, you wiped out pretty good the last time we were there.
You went and had them again?
I had to do it.
Yeah.
Because you ate too many the time we went there, and I didn't get enough of them. So I went with my beautiful granddaughter.
But I'm the thin guy, I thought.
That's true.
How does that?
I quit smoking. I became a fat pig, you know, and at my age, I deserve it. Okay.
Like Abba says, you gotta, you know, take care of yourself. You know,
well, I go down there
cream.
with my lovely granddaughter and my son-in-law, and she's just sweet. And everybody says hello to my granddaughter. You know, she's a treat. Who walks in as we're walking up? But Tom McGee. Now, Tom McGee was wise enough to have a dinner at Tony's that was packed with people who vote, who are sensitive to it. You know that. With his wife and his family there. That was a smart move over and above everything else, right? So that's indicative. The other one, you came up with a name known as ABBA, James Abernathy,
right.
short for ABBA. Well, years back, his dad received a package from, and it blew his hands off, his eyes. It was awful. And, I mean, it was a seriously bad situation. Tom McGee Sr. did everything in the world to help him out after that, which was magnanimous. But beyond that, the son, Tom, when Abba's brother, older brother, became ill, Tom, unbeknownst, had no need to do it, was there for him. And Abba said to me, for that reason, and that reason alone, he would come back from Florida to vote for Tom McGee. So you hear these types of stories.
Right. Yep.
Now, this is not to put anything down on Judy, because she's a very decent lady herself, okay? Right. This is one of those situations, I don't know how you read it. I give the world the credit for organizing, and you're right. You're talking about a very narrow universe of only 10% of the eligible voters. But, Paul, that's really not true either, because only 50% of the voters vote to start with.
No, not even that much.
All right.
We're going to get like 22%.
In the final?
Yeah. So you can basically, you know how they have in the presidential elections now they do advanced voting. People can vote. They don't call it that, but you know, so you can vote like up to 6 weeks before. So all those votes that get in advance, think about this primary vote as something like that. So, because everybody that voted in that primary is going to vote in the general.
Everybody. Right.
It's that entire 10%.
Absolutely.
So for starters, before the first vote is tallied, he has a 3,000 vote lead. So Judy's going to have to make up that 3,000 votes, starting with the first person that didn't vote in the primary beyond. So she's got to make it up with a lot less people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, I mean, and if you get 20% of the vote, she's going to have to win. So it's 11% voted yesterday, right? Assume they all vote, and they vote the same way. Judy's going to have to win by 3,000 votes on the next 11% in order for it to be a push.
She has to flip the numbers. She has to win 3-1 or 4-1.
72 to 28%, and that's for everybody who didn't vote yesterday.
That's right. That's right, and that's a tough
and you got to have at least 11% in order to get even.
Well, are you going to get to Frankly Paul, or are we going to pass on it and move forward, or what?
Did you write it?
No, you did.
So you're not that enamored with Frankly Paul this week? Or?
I like Frankly Paul.
All right, so
I particularly like the logo. You
Yeah,
know?
that looks like me.
It does, doesn't it? I was talking about the clown.
Oh. All right. So Frankly Paul, the curtain has fallen on Act 1 of a 2-act drama, the Lynn election of 2017. Some will smile, some will cry. Some simply got a free ride. All candidates for mayor, for councilors at large, and for school committee move on to Act 2. Incumbents in wards 4, 6, and 7 went unopposed, making November irrelevant for them. Even the primary was irrelevant for them. Sadly so. Wards 1, 2, 3, and 5 are contested, with only Ward 2 offering any drama in Act 1. Outside of Ward 2, where 2 hopefuls were eliminated, the only drama was over how the challengers performed relative to the incumbents. In the at-large and school committee races, a different dynamic is in play. How the challengers fared against both the incumbents and each other occupies center stage. Position becomes the primary for voter of Act 2. Frankly speaking, we'll try to make some sense out of Act 1 and attempt to foresight Act 2. And with that, I'd like to point out that in the at-large race, there were 3 incumbents and 5 challengers. And so there's one open seat, let's say. And the 3 incumbents absolutely came in 1, 2, 3. There was very little doubt about the first 3. Brian Field came in 4th, a pretty good showing for 4th. 5th and 6th were occupied by Tasso and Rick Ford. They were pretty close, but they still had some distance.
Actually, they were pretty close to 4, all the 2 of them.
Right. So you can say that the incumbents look like they're in, and then the race is for the 4th seat between Tasso, Rick Ford, and Brian Field. And Brian Field is the early favorite.
Yeah.
But the other 2 candidates, Ladd and
Figueroa came to my door. Very nice young man.
Absolutely. He was at the senior center on Monday. Good kid. And so was actually John Ladd. And I think this is not their time.
I'm just, folks, it's when someone puts their name out there and works as hard as Ladd and Figueroa, who, this is their first trip. Don't forget, Field got trounced when he ran the last time.
1-on-1 in Ward 7, yeah.
But he came back and he's, and he did a nice job. Look, the establishment voted, as you pointed out, without question. The political overseers, so to speak, the organized minority.
Yes, as you put it, the organized minority.
They got everybody out. So for someone like Tasso, for someone like, Ford's part of, he's part of the his profile's been around a little bit. And he's a decent guy.
Right.
And Field, well, you could say that he was always, Field and Tasso are not unknown.
Field's a good guy. I mean, I've met him. He's a member of the Democratic City Committee, so I think he enjoys the support of the Democratic City Committee.
And that's formidable.
Right. One thing I will say, though, and this has been something that it's not a matter related to Brian at all. It's just something that I noticed since I've been in politics, and that goes back to 2005. There have been a number of candidates that have come out of Salamini Funeral Home. So it was.
You mean they've been resurrected from the dead?
No, people that work there.
Oh, okay. I want to make that clear.
There've been some candidates over the years, and I don't think that's. I don't know why that is, but it's just they haven't always fared that well.
Well, you recall when we went to the inauguration and we're on a train and some kid was sleeping and woke up and asked where we were from?
Oh yeah, he knew the Salaminis. He interned
he asked
with them.
if we knew the Salaminis, and you said which one, and he come to find out.
He knew them all.
Yeah. Come to find out he was an undertaker, after which I stayed my distance from him. Right?
And then when we got to the inauguration, he crossed our path again.
Yeah,
but we're still alive, so that's a good thing.
one of these.
We're still alive, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, so I'm not a fan necessarily of those who deal with the dead.
Yes.
I'm trying to stay alive.
Right.
Putting that aside, there are some new faces. School committees had a...
You know what, and I'd like to look at that, because I haven't really looked at that closely at all.
Well, wait a minute. Before we do that, we got to do some stat work. Because, our producer and our director, Diaz and Dave Rowley, Pedro, came up with some really good stuff. So we have this chart that we're going to put up there right there, Paul. You see it up there? You have it up there?
Yes.
Which are the Lynn voters and party affiliations. So let's do that first. I was surprised how evenly divided unenrolled and Democrats are in the city. It's like the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, isn't it? And of course, if you're a Republican, like I am, it doesn't look too good for you.
How is the breakout?
Well, it says right up here, you have that chart there, but the unenrolled is 23,600, Democrat 23,900. I mean, you know, that really surprised me, and there's 3,000 Republicans. That doesn't surprise me having.
Right. Well, you know,
I used to have meetings in phone booths.
It really says a lot when we talk about it, because we talk about it at regular intervals. That the fact of the matter is that the party system has gotten so divisive, polarized and divisive over the years that, you know, your party affiliation tends to be more important than your policies and what you're doing and so forth. For example, let's just take the Trump administration. Donald Trump gets absolutely no support from the Democrats, nor did Barack Obama get any support from the Republicans, simply because of their party affiliation.
Well, I'm gonna hold back on that. I think there were a number of Republicans who were very sympathetic to Barack Obama. Certainly,
Quietly,
McCain
you're
was.
right. Yeah, like we always say, there's no dimes worth of
they
difference.
came out. I mean, and I'm saying that Donald Trump does not have a number of Republicans pushing for him. I mean, he's battling the Republican. He's not a Republican. He's not a Democrat.
Right.
He's get the job done type of guy.
Right.
All right. Now, I want to go over to this because it's important. There was a mayoral final in 2013. And I think we have the figures there. Paul, you have them over there? You see it where Judy ran against Phelan. And in that final election, she got 9,258 votes. You see that? It's right up there.
Oh, okay, yeah.
To Phelan's 6,000. So she won by nearly 3,000 votes. It's
4 years
almost
ago.
a flip.
Yeah, almost 4 years ago, right?
Right. Well, actually not. She got about 59% of the vote, rounded off to 60, and he got 40% of the vote.
Right.
So she was 3-2.
In the primary, it was 3
That was
to
the
1.
fun. Yeah, but look at that number. You're talking about 15,000 people. In this particular primary, only about 6,000 people voted.
Right, so that's 25% then, right?
It is? Well,
if
you're the math guy.
If 6,000 is 11%, 15,000 is 25 or 26 or 27.
So why do we have this figure 53 on this chart, 53.37%? What's that mean? That's how many ballots? Ballots cast is deceiving, isn't it? Because in council large race you have 4, and in school committee you have 6. Is that the way they tally ballots?
See, I'm wondering if what this is saying is that
What?
11% of the Republicans voted, 53% of the Democrats voted. No, I don't know if that's.
I don't think that's it. I think 11.73%. This came out of the courtesy of the City of Lynn's election. I think that 11% was who turned out in this primary, as opposed to 7% or vice versa. But putting that aside, let's move on.
Okay.
Let's take up the wards. First of all, let's show you what the wards look like in the city, and take a look at that geographically, Paul. Ward 1 is the largest geographically and also number-wise, isn't it?
In terms of
population?
Population. Well, that, they pretty much vote in every election, like we were talking about earlier.
Yeah. 7 would be important.
And what I would tell you about Ward 1, and yeah. I'd love to know what the data on this. I would love to know, of all the registered voters in Ward 1, how many of them either work for or have worked for the City of Lynn at one time or another.
So you're saying that is
it's
pretty.
The biggest swath of people up there, I would say, there's a big swath of people.
School teachers, policemen, firemen,
right.
DPW, and all that type of stuff.
And
City
retirees
Hall.
and so forth.
Okay. What about 7? 7's a pretty large geographic and big numbers too, right?
But it seems like Ward 1 is a little bit
more powerful.
Yeah, well, it's definitely more powerful in terms of the vote. I mean, if you look at, and I go back to the first election that I was in 2005, every year, if you look at the results of Ward 1, Precinct 1, which is the biggest,
Right.
that's the furthest north of the city, right?
By the circle?
Yeah,
Right, yeah,
up
go in
there.
circle, yeah.
If you look at the results there, that will tell you the results of the race.
Really? I always thought Ward 3 was a marker. You know, I thought...
Well, it may be as well.
Citywide, I always looked at Ward 3 as being the indicator of, you know, like what they talk of bellwether, but... Yeah,
But let me just give you an example. So in 2005, my primary, I came in 4th.
Right.
And I came in 2nd in the general, right? In Ward 1, Precinct 1, in the primary, I came in 4th.
And
And in the general, in Ward 1, Precinct 1, I came in 2nd. And
So I get you,
it
yeah.
translated throughout, you know,
yeah, so that was consistent.
all I needed was that result to know how I was going to finish,
Oh.
as it turned out.
By the way, let's throw that oracle up there. You know, you are the oracle.
I am
the
the
new
oracle.
thing. We have this thing called the oracle. You see it? The oracle. That's you, Paul. Who's the oracle? Paul Crowley. And what are you going to be telling us, Mr. Oracle? That's what you're here for.
Tomorrow's Thursday, I don't know.
Tomorrow's Thursday? That's pretty good.
You're going to help me decide what is it I'm supposed to be telling you? I'm supposed to have be able to see into the future? Is that what you're...
The oracle understands the future,
Okay.
right? If folks have to come to you to find out what portends.
What portends, yes. Okay, got it.
In Ward 1, on that note, Ward 1, we got these results up there. If I'm not mistaken, was a fellow named O'Shea against Wayne Losey. Now, Wayne Losey is one heck of a campaigner.
Right.
He works hard.
Old school.
Right. But this kid O'Shea surprised me, whoever he may be. I have no idea, because I think that gap was fairly narrow. I think Wayne's going to have to think about this a little bit. I may be wrong.
Well, there's only 2 ways to run for public office, right? You know,
Hard
either
and harder.
Either unopposed
Yeah.
or scared.
That's a good idea. I love that.
Yeah.
Folks, you hear that?
so you either-
Unopposed or scared. But if you look at there, you have Wayne got 1,000 votes, which is really good. But this O'Shea is $1.50, no, less than $1.50 away from him,
So
right?
he's got work to do. Billy O'Shea has work to do. By the way, I used to share office space with his father. I used to share office space with Billy O'Shea's father down at Seaport Landing. He's gone now. But anyway, yeah, that's was that 145 vote differential?
Yeah, that's so that's you know, that's manageable. Here in Ward 2, and we got that Starbot got an impressive victory there with 564 votes in a 4-man race, and O'Toole at 367. But if you take a look between Grocky and McGrain, that's a couple of hundred votes that didn't go for Starbot or didn't go from her. So, you know, she's got to try to hustle those.
If she got all of those votes, she would make it
She
pretty
wins.
close, right?
Yeah, she wins if she gets the lion's share of those votes.
But again, as we pointed out, what was it? So what was the turnout? Is that as what was the turnout in that ward? Do we know?
No, I don't. But if you take a look at, we have a precinct breakdown. I think you have it. I sent it to you, and I want to thank some of the candidates who sent it. We have to be cautious not to promote anybody on a show. But you see, it's up there by precinct. Do you see it, Paul? I mean, I can't read it.
I'm looking at it
I'll
right
try
now.
to find it. But
Okay, so there was a 30% turnout in 2-1.
2-2.
The biggest is 2-1, so that really tells the whole
Yeah.
story. That's what I mean. It was
He's from 2-1.
yeah.
Starbot
and
lives in 2-1.
apparently so
That's
is
his home
Gina,
precinct.
so is Gina O'Toole.
I never lost 2-1, even when I ran as a Republican against a Democrat.
And once again, you know, just I was talking about Ward 1, Precinct 1 being an indicator for the entire city.
Yeah, tell me how it worked on the...
In Ward 2, Precinct 1,
Yeah.
I think that was indicative of it in total. In other words, Wards 2, Precinct 2, 3, and 4 did not have any. I mean, forgetting about how
Yeah,
it played
they had
out,
no-
there weren't enough votes for
Yeah.
it to really impact. So
However,
the
here
results
is-
of 2-1 are the key.
If you take a look at the breakdown, look at the mayoral, because Judy comes from 2-2, and that was not a good vote in a home precinct.
So what she
you
did?
see it?
So yeah, she lost 169 to 76 in 2-2, right?
In her own home precinct.
Right.
And that's telling that is, you know, who knows?
Yeah. It
All right.
is, you know, and some people been asking the question.
Let's go down to-
is she even running and all that kind of
All
stuff.
right, let's go down to Ward 3, which is contested. Council President Darrell Sear, he came out with a little bit of a victory there, didn't he? 384 to 244. That's a pretty good showing, 3-2, isn't it? So right up there on the board, Paul.
Does it say? Does it say
3 to 2,
percentage
right?
terms? So what's that? So that's like 38 out of
Yeah.
62. So that's about like 60%.
Yeah,
so
but
60-40.
But you know, George is not you know, he's not just any old buddy. I mean, he's a fairly hard-working, formidable, reputable guy, and Darren did a pretty good job. I mean, against somebody who was putting on a spirited campaign. So, and Ward 5, that looks like.
We got that wrong. Jakutis is she won.
Yeah, the other way around.
They have the names backwards. Diana Jakutis had 358 votes, and
Yes. That
Hippolyte had 153. So she won that one by about 70% to 30%.
Yeah.
Yep.
And she does a pretty good job. She's well liked.
Oh yeah, she comes down to Senior Center all the time. She's very active.
Put that back up there, because that graphic up there, because what's important. And when you read Frankly Paul, you used the word sadly. And it is sad that 4, 6, and 7 are running against air.
Right.
That they're automatic and they didn't do a thing.
Somebody once told me that you have to look at them versus the blanks. And what that means is you can look at the candidate, you can see how many votes they got and how many
blanks.
Were
Someone
cast.
mentioned that actually Walsh got the highest percentage against blanks of anybody.
Richard Colucci got 93% of the votes cast in 4.
Yeah.
So then what was it? So it was
Richard
4,
got
6.
93% in. And what about Walsh? Jay Walsh?
Well, let me do Capano because I have it right here. He got 98%. And then Walsh was 7. This doesn't have 7. Oh, there it is.
We don't have it there.
No, I got it at 98.
All right.
No, I don't think that's. This doesn't declare the blanks. I don't think. Maybe the other.
Well,
report
the point of the matter is this:
is that people that go in and vote.
You know, as much as I respect Colucci and Capano and Walsh, no one should get a free pass.
Right. And
as much as I like you, Paul, I wouldn't want you to get a free pass either.
Right. Okay. So let me just speak to the versus the blanks one. Let's do so 4 was against unopposed, right? So Ward 4, there were total cards cast 355, right? Mm-hmm. And then you look and you see how many votes he actually got.
And the answer is
6120, 255. What is that? How many? So 255 versus 355. So
all right.
100 people chose not to vote for him.
That's a lot.
Right. So it's almost, so that's a 255 to.
So this is what someone
like
pointed
3 to
out,
1.
that Walsh had whatever the mechanical gymnastics you just pulled off, mathematical gymnastics, that Walsh.
It's instructive to the candidate who runs unopposed. If those blanks get too high, that means there are people that have an issue with you, and that you need to work on things. And it doesn't seem like
let's go at large, because we made some mess of it. If we can put the at large up there, so the 3 incumbents finished 1, 2, 3.
Right.
Okay.
Without a doubt.
Do you see that changing?
No.
Mr. Oracle. So you say 1, 2, 3. Don't forget now, Han-Net, the spread between Han-Net and 4 is what, a couple hundred votes?
No, it's 86 according to up on the board.
So, yeah. So the spread between number 3 and 4, and if you throw in Tasso and Rick Ford, that's going to be spirited. So there's more. I tend to think that there's 2 seats possibly available. Remember Vinnie Spirito when he ran for school committee, topped the ticket in the primary and lost in the final?
Yeah, that was the year I lost. Yeah.
Well, what I'm saying is that I think the spread there between Tasso and Ford and Field And
Anybody's ball game.
Huh?
It's anybody's ball game.
I think so.
Right. I mean, you give a slight edge to the fourth place finisher, Brian Field, and a slight edge to Tasso over Ricky Ford. But basically, it's pretty close. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, once I asked Buzzy how he does it, and he's likable.
Yeah.
People like him, and that's a good thing.
Yeah. Starts there.
His
yeah.
mother was absolutely
Virginia
splendid
Barton,
lady.
I thought the world of her.
So we benefit from life history.
Yeah.
Don't forget, Tom McGee has a compelling story in that he still lives in the house he was born in,
Right.
and that works. Yeah.
Right. Well, you know, somebody once told me that elections are more about a popularity contests than they are about, you know, your ability to do the right thing or to know the issues or to have a political position on things. It's more about, you know, likability.
Well, let's talk about perception and reality, okay?
Okay.
All right. There's a perception out there that Barack Obama was a very intelligent guy, right? That's the perception. Likable, definitely likable. So I'm agreeing with you. I think a lot of people voted for Barack Obama because he had a nice personality.
Right.
Not necessarily because he was the brightest light bulb, but people thought so. Do you remember when he said there were 57 states?
Yeah, that was probably day 300 of a grueling campaign. He was probably a little punchy.
Yeah, that's true.
So I'm sure he knows that there are 50.
Well, he didn't that night, right?
Right. But again,
Yeah, but let's go down the list.
I can't.
Did you know that he also said that Canada has a president?
Yes, I knew he said that. But
Did
they
you
don't.
know
They
that he
have a
said
prime
America
minister.
is 20 centuries old?
Yeah.
And on it goes. That Arabic is the language of Afghanistan. So what I'm trying to say to you is there's a lot of little gaps in there that weren't played up. It had, you know, had it been George Bush,
Oh, granted.
or
I mean,
had it been,
he got a free ride from the media. They protected him for 8 years. There's no
Right.
question about it. And they're still protecting him
So what I'm saying to you
because
is,
they want his legacy to be good.
well, his autobiography was probably written by William Ayers.
Yeah.
So you have this, and this notion that he was a constitutional lawyer. I mean,
Yeah, you told me about that. Share that with the audience. So that was a rather remarkable thing that
Well,
I
he was
never.
a part-time instructor at the University of Chicago Law School, and they didn't even designate him as a professor, and he was not even an adjunct or an instructor. And the folks there had very little respect for him because they said, one, he was lazy and didn't show up too often.
Right.
Now, whether that's true or not, I have no idea.
Right, but what did they call? They always referred to him as a constitutional law professor.
Yeah, and what they're saying,
which is a lie.
right? I mean, it's
But
like
that was to build that whole persona.
the
right?
narrative,
Yeah.
and that's what I'm saying. So, in the case when you say it's a popularity contest, it is when people are a willing media paint you as the greatest thing since whatever, right?
Right.
And that's it. I mean, I can honestly say, looking everybody out there, Eddie, I can honestly say that our two candidates for mayor are decent, competent human beings, right?
Yep.
We can differ over the politics.
Yep.
You know, I would be more inclined, frankly, to be to my Republican brethren
Yep.
than to the Democratic brethren. But I cannot sit here and. By the way, do you know that I voted for Tom McGee on many occasions? You know,
Yeah.
it's a Democrat, but that's even when he ran against Republicans.
For the last 23 years, he's been in my district.
Exactly. So that's people know that I have an affinity for Brian LaPierre. I had him as a student. I had him as
Do you know
department head, and
In 1996 or something, when he first ran for the state seat, when he was
Tom
state rep,
McGee?
yep, the state rep seat, he had his campaign office on the corner of Boston Street and maybe Wyman, or one of those streets, Flint Street or something like that. And I drove by it a couple of times on my way home from work, and then one day I decided to stop in and told him that his father was friends with my father, and my father always spoke highly of him, and I wanted to help, and this was before I had any interest in politics whatsoever. So my wife and I, we held signs, and we did some phone calls.
you were out there for Tom
McGee.
Yeah.
That was 23 years ago, though. Yep.
No, you're dating yourself.
It was probably 94.
Folks, I don't know whether you guys realize that the mayor is the only female mayor the city of Lynn's ever had. That's number one. That's a milestone.
Yep.
She's probably the most intelligent mayor that we've ever had because she's a member of Mensa. Are
Right.
you aware of that?
Yes, I was aware of that.
Very high IQ, very bright woman. And, you know, I made the point, and it's irrelevant because I believe in choice, school choice, that is. She sent her kids to the Lynn school system. Others may not. I don't think that's material. But, you know, does it score any points for those people?
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I decided that I was going to run for the city council. I wanted to run for councilor at large, and my daughter was going to Sacred Heart at the time. And you know, some of the people in my corner were like, you know, Paul, maybe you should run for the school committee first. They were like, you know, they were telling me to slow down. You know, you don't want to be the president. You know, and I said, I don't really have a horse in the race for the school department because my daughter goes to private school, and I really didn't think that it was appropriate for me to be taking a position on matters involving the school system since I was not, my family was not participating in it.
That's true. I mean, there's some validity to that, but...
anyway, so that's why I didn't go for the school committee, and I went for the council at
Well, I
large.
think Steve Krause, and I'm hoping that we have Steve Krause on the show, by the way. Steve Krause and I went back and forth, and then we came to understand...
Facebook.
Yeah, and then we came to realize that we were at the same place, you know, because he was defending the fact that politicians can choose to send their kids wherever they wanted to. And he mentioned that he had sent his son, I believe, to Malden Catholic, and it's perfectly all right, you know, and he was willing to pay property tax in the city of Lynn, and he went for the extra money.
Nobody's willing to pay property taxes. Everybody's required to pay property taxes.
I like that. It's a great distinction.
Yes.
Yeah.
Willing to pay the extra money to send your child to a private school. But the question is, and this is an important question, and you know,
Yeah, go ahead.
if you're predisposed to spend additional money over and above the money that you would have to spend to send your child to a private school, what does that say about your position on the value of the public school system?
Well, you can look at it in two different directions. If you sent your child to a religious school because you wanted them to have a religious slant.
Right. And truth be told, you can't paint everybody with the same brush because
Exactly.
You know, I may send my child to private school because I went to a private school, and I think it's very important that they get that the Catholic way, if you will.
You went to tech because that's a specialty curriculum, right? There are those who might be musically inclined, and there's a certain school or system that has more emphasis on the arts. So there could be reasons.
Right.
We got to get to the school committee, Paul, because you know, we neglected that, and we have probably more new faces there than any place else.
So were the incumbents the top vote getters again?
Well, Maria Carrasco did not run,
Right.
and Pat Capano did not run, right? So we lost two folks there.
So let's talk about the incumbents that are in there. So we got Donna Capola as an incumbent. She was the top vote getter.
Yeah, she was.
Which is true for her. Donna, you know, I always say to anybody who's running for school committee, just always make it about the kids. That's all I ever say. I said, I don't care what you do, how you do it, but just always remember the kids are the most important thing.
Would you say that characterization fits Donna Capola?
Absolutely. That's why she always gets my vote.
She's got 3,100 votes.
Right.
And Lorraine Gately was a former school teacher, and she was a science teacher, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
Pretty bright lady. Now, John Ford is just a regular, steady Eddie type of guy, huh? And he's there for the kids.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. So we
and
have...
then Jared Nicholson, he came in...
Actually, he slid down a bit, didn't he, Nicholson?
He came in 5th by 42 votes, it looks like. And so he
actually
lost the 4th.
1, 2, 3. He came in
So he was
5th.
not the 4th. The 4th, Brian Castellanos, who was a young kid.
Yeah.
I guess he's in like
New face.
He's like 25.
And also,
very compelling story, that Brian Castellanos. People at home, you should learn about the other candidates as much as you can. But there's an interesting story behind Brian, and I had only heard it just the other day, and I would encourage you to learn more about Brian.
Yeah, and what I'm saying, what's interesting about this is that is it called a Satterwhite? Is that how you pronounce that?
Yes.
That's a really good showing right there.
Yep.
So we have the 6 seats, right? 10
Yep.
candidates, 6 seats. So 4 aren't going to make the cut. And it looks like we're going to have at least 2 new school committee people. Is that right?
We
Or
have
was
to
by
have we
Nate?
have to have
we have to have 2 new ones.
And
Yeah.
we may have a third if somebody gets knocked out, but I don't think that's going to happen.
And we'll have a little different perspective,
Right.
and that's a good thing. It's nice that I'm assuming that Castellanos is Hispanic, right? You know, replaces Hispanic with a Hispanic. Now
I
let's.
don't think so. I would say Castellanos is probably more Italian, more.
You think Italian? We have vowels at the end of our name.
Castellanos. I don't know. It's
Nice-
hard to say these
nice
days.
try.
Well, I thought. Oh, that's right. It has to end in a vowel, right?
Yeah, we end in vowel most of the time. Paul, the point is that we have new faces with a new direction, right?
Yeah.
And that is a very important thing. And I want to ask this question, and this is, you know, a challenge in a sense, because we're going to be scheduling Frances.
Martinez.
She's going to be coming on.
She's
right?
great. Yeah, I'd like to have her on. Yeah.
Paulie, this city has about 40% Hispanic population. It doesn't show up here.
In the vote, or
Does not. Doesn't show up in the
on
candidates, doesn't show up on the vote. Okay?
Yep.
That's a shame. Because you know what? The city has been controlled by various ethnic groups throughout the years as the demographics have changed.
So I don't know the reason for this.
Yeah.
But I was wondering if language barrier has anything to do with it.
What was that?
Language barrier? Language?
No, because you parlo italiano. You know, it doesn't matter what your language is. You can.
No, but
stop you from voting.
today is different than it was when your parents came here, right? They were
Well,
forced to learn.
everything's different, Paul. You know, and yet how things change. You know, we talk about that. Let's go back to the mayor's race for a second, okay? We really didn't get into the results, so let's do that.
Okay.
All right. The mayor, what was the spread there? It's about almost 3,000 votes in the
Yes.
primary. Is that correct?
Yeah.
42 to
It
16.
was 2,600.
I mean, that's pretty impressive win by Tom McGee at 72% against an incumbent mayor. And I'd have to say relatively popular mayor. Don't forget, Judy's been around a long time. She won her first race in school committee with stickers.
Right.
And she beat Clancy on stickers. I mean,
Just in the primary.
that's okay. It's pretty hard to do, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay?
To get on the ballot, yeah.
Right. And she has, and you know, you can't, I know what the conditions are. Maybe we just have 2 really good candidates and one of them just broke loose. I don't know.
Right.
I
don't
know-
expect the 72% to hold up.
Do you expect it to hold up?
I don't.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think it'll be a 72% because, you know, as I say, you're going to get somebody's going to get 30% ultimately anyway. So I would expect that would at least narrow. Now, I don't know whether there's a chance that she could turn this around or not. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. Seems like
Well, she's certainly not going to roll over and die.
right. She certainly got a tough road to hoe. There's no question about it. But I don't see it getting. I don't think it ends at 72-28 or higher. You know, I just don't.
What
That's the
about the-
only thing I could say as an oracle.
All right. Let's quickly. You're the Oracle, Mr. Oracle. So your Oracle, Paul Crowley. Let me stop for a second. I want to explore quickly about why it is that with 40% of the population, let me ask this, is the Hispanic population in the city of Lynn registered to vote?
I don't know.
So, we have to look at that
I would
first.
say that the percentage of non-Hispanic registered to vote is higher
Okay.
than the Hispanic.
Good question to ask.
I just think that they need to get better organized.
Well, that's a good question to talk to
Frances about. Right.
Because you certainly entrepreneurial, because she's the head of the Latino Business Association.
Yep.
So they're out there to make money and expand, right?
Right.
If I take a look at Figueroa, I mean, this kid is just crisp, well-dressed, well-spoken, you know, in both languages.
Yep.
Suffolk University. I mean, these are the types of kids and folks you want to throw forward. Maria had her accent, as you well know, but she was feisty,
Yeah.
and you know, and she was certainly an advocate for what she believed in. So you got to give her credit. And I'm just saying that there should be more candidates. I'm assuming, like I said, that Castellanos is Hispanic, and there are a couple of others who ran for school committee, by the way, who seem to have Spanish surnames, and they would be Elizabeth Rosario Gravaccio, and she grabbed 1,100 votes. That's not bad. And I don't know about Natasha and Rashida Casey, but the point being is that you have to start somewhere. And I'm saying that if a city demographics have changed as much as Lynn has, maybe, just maybe, we should be having a different flavor on the city council and positions of governance. That's all. Now, in all fairness to Judy, Mayor Kennedy, she appointed a lot of folks from the Hispanic community into her administration.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. So she did a good job in that direction, and that's it. So that's not to say that any challenger, a new face, might not do the same. So that's that part. Now, Mr. Oracle,
Yes.
Ward 1, let's get some word cut out for him, right? I mean, he looks good, but knowing...
There's a race there.
Yeah,
Right?
it's a race there.
Yeah.
Ward 2,
Race there too?
a race there.
Yeah.
Ward 3,
No
that's
race.
you don't think it's a race?
No.
And 5.
And I would just say that this is at least the third time that George Mateus has run. He ran for school committee
At large.
at large, and now Ward 3. Now that's just my thinking. I don't know. And Darren's a pretty popular ward councilor.
You know that Patsy Caggiano ran for mayor 7 times? 7
Then he finally
times.
won, and then he died like 3 weeks later or something.
Yeah.
Imagine
7 times he ran, and he kept
The
coming.
height of futility.
He just pounded and pounded. And Al DiVirgilio, he ran races all over the place. I mean, he keep pounding away. Another guy, you know, he'd walk through steel doors. So some people just have that ability to come back, and the rest of it. We got to get to the comments, kiddo, because
Okay.
we're running out. Folks, it's always nice when we get one like this. It says, and I quote, "Great show, especially talking about those career politicians." That's in reference to last week's show. How about this one, Paul? "Good morning, Joe and Paul." Apparently, they watch it at 12 o'clock, because don't forget, we're on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 12 and at 8. And it's "Good morning, Paul and Joe. Watched your latest show and found it once again very informative and enlightening. Thank you very much. Considering the current state of politics today, not only nationally but locally as well, I feel it's high time to move for the abolition of the multi-party system." Maybe they're right.
But we don't have a multi-party. We have a two-party system.
Yeah, we do. We have independents. We do have more than one party. There's just not.
Independence is not a party, though.
What about
It's
socialists?
not organized.
Bernie Fernandez is a socialist, right?
But I always thought that the United States essentially had a two-party system. All those other parties are all like insignificant.
You know, I'm the opposite. I wish we had more parties. Fragmented government. That protects everybody a lot better.
Like that becomes a parliamentary system.
I like the parliamentary system, yeah. The system we currently have is enriching a lot of people.
Yes, and that's because of the cynicism around what's appropriate. I mean,
No, that's because George Wallace hit it right on the head when he said there's not a dime's worth of difference between the two. We fundamentally have a one-party system, guys, there's a two-party system.
There you go. That's right. Yeah.
That's the problem.
And this notion that our vote matters, maybe locally, but not at the state or federal level.
Paul, this election we had today, or yesterday, right, is symptomatic of what you just talked about. The candidates were preordained. As you mentioned, someone sitting up there, holding a sign, thinking about, this sign says McGee, but it's all about me, right?
You know, he is a supporter of McGee, so I don't want to make it appear that that's
No, I understand
not the
it.
case.
But
But I was joking with him, and the fact that remains that assuming Tom McGee wins and the Senate seat opens up and they have a special election for that, I would say that there's a very good chance that Brendan Crichton runs for that
I'm
seat.
not trying to demean anyone.
No.
But sitting in position now is Jay Walsh, and if Fields gets lucky, those two will start thinking about.
The next
And
seat.
Grillo may come out of the woodwork, right?
Grillo?
Is it Grillo?
No, I think you're talking about
Who was this?
Gallo.
Gallo.
Charlie Gallo, yeah.
Can't, those Italian names confuse me.
Yeah.
So, I mean, these are the types of things
And,
that happen.
there's a lot of names, Westland names, It will be somebody that comes out of Westland that would run for...
Don't tell me Crowley's going to be involved in that one.
That's a name that could come out.
It could come out. Lynn TV has
It
launched.
won't, but it could.
It could. Lynn, I know it won't come out. Guy named Spina. So
It's not your district.
I can get. I have 2 dogs that vote for me. That's a maybe. LCTV has launched an election section on their website, so make sure you check it out, with videos and bios and more for the candidates running for school committee, city council, mayor, etc. It's visit lyntv.org/elections. Let me repeat that. Visit lyntv.org/elections. Leave your comments and messages on Facebook about Frankly Speaking. We appreciate them, and we didn't get to all of them, Paul. We had 5. We got a couple
Are
more
we
there.
running out of time?
No, we got a minute or so left, and I think we ought to get to a few more here. I heard plenty of stories posted on. Oh no, I don't want to get that one. That's about McGrange. And do you think that there's some accuracy in that point that I made that
Signs don't vote?
I know that? No, that he probably got less votes than the amount of signs he had out.
There were a lot of signs.
That's what I'm saying.
Not a lot of
He had
votes.
186 votes, right?
Yep.
And I bet you he had a couple hundred signs out.
Right.
Very close. I've never seen anything like that before.
And he needed the vote in the primary big time.
Dude.
Yeah, and he got half as many as the second place finisher got.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
So here we have a post, and this is interesting because this obviously is after the fact, right? With full knowledge of the results. And the post was, Judy did not work at all as far as this viewer could see. I don't think she wanted to be mayor anymore. Open season for illegal aliens now. Lock and load, time for the average citizen.
Well, I for one, believe that Judy is every bit committed to running. One thing you can always say about Judy is that she runs unconventional campaigns, for sure. I mean, when I ran the first time, back in 2005, she was in the Councilor at Large field, and she has those very distinctive black and pink signs, right? But they were nowhere to be seen, really, during that whole campaign. Now, she lost, and, there was a lot of action and new candidates and me and whatnot, and so she lost in that one. But when she ran against Clancy and then when she ran against Phelan, people were saying similar things like she's not working, she's no signs, and all this kind of stuff.
And yet.
Right. So that's why I say,
Oh, no.
well, I wish she
Well-
would, I wish it would be obvious that she was working so that people wouldn't even use that as a potential.
She had
Because I like it when everybody,
She had her folks out on Buchanan Bridge prior to Agnes Rickel and her crew. They were there, and they were, pushing for her. Look, I have a great deal of respect for both of these candidates.
I do too.
Folks, I'm not going to play games with you. I think you all know. I've never hidden from the fact that I'm right of center. I'm a Republican. Okay, so, I tend to. That does not mean that I don't respect and I'd feel uncomfortable if, Tom McGee were to get to win. If he were to win, fine.
Right.
I feel safe in that hands. I would prefer to have someone that was more philosophically aligned with me.
Right.
That's a preference, but so be it.
Right.
A good person is a good person,
Yep.
Paul. It doesn't matter.
as long as they do the right thing by the city.
Well, obviously, both of them have done the right thing by the city over long careers from both of them.
Right.
I mean, that's one thing you can say with absolute certitude. It isn't
Right.
as if, the choice is a good choice. It's nice to say that, Paul, isn't it?
Yep.
And it's the same. We need more good choices across the board.
Right.
We'll be back next week to say something about something. You have a great week.